Hi and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk to my lovely husband, known on this channel as Mr. Purple, about unmasking in the context of relationships that you have had prior to getting your autism diagnosis and romantic relationships. So this was inspired by a programme that I watched last week by the wonderful Chris Packham called Inside Our Autistic Minds, and in this programme one of the autistic people that was featured, Flo, was talking about how she needed to tell her mom about her need to unmask so that she could unmask around her mom. But she was saying that she could unmask around her husband and in her home. And I felt myself feeling quite tearful when I watched this programme because I recognised that through no fault of Mr. Purple's, I am essentially still masking at home, which means that I am essentially still masking like all of the time. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, I'm having quite the struggle with my mental health at the moment, partly exacerbated by menopause, but I think also partly the result of a lifetime, I'm 44 now, of masking and being overloaded and overwhelmed by my life. So rather than like a normal human being having a lovely private conversation with my husband about this, I thought, why not do it on camera for you? Because I know that there are other people out there, because you have told me this, who are in the same situation, and I thought this conversation might be useful. I thought I'd start by asking you, what is your understanding of autistic masking?
I see it as a way of coping with the unpredictability of the world, of going out and dealing with people in situations that are a bit unpredictable or that have specific rules that you're supposed to follow, social niceties. But I mean, not even just out in the world, even on Zoom calls and things at home, I've seen you do it. So it's a way of putting on a front in order to be able to cope with the outside world.
Yeah, that's right. It's basically all that you've just said, but in the context of being given the message at quite a young age that who you are and your natural instinctive way of being is not okay, and that you will only be accepted if you shape yourself into something else. The masking that you're talking about seeing, say, on Zoom, like if I'm in a meeting or whatever, is the more kind of obvious masking, which is both a combination of autistic masking, but also this thing that kind of everybody does, where we present a facet of ourselves that's most appropriate to that situation. And in this case, it's usually Ella, the entertainer, right? Because that's what my job is, and that's what I will be doing in these meetings. But there's a kind of more subtle, quiet masking, which is less about adding layers on and putting on a performance, and more about suppressing natural ways of being and natural things that you would do because they might bother the people that you're around.
I'm, I guess, a bit surprised that you don't feel comfortable enough and relaxed enough to unmask in front of me. I'm interested to know how we can change that, how I can enable you to be more relaxed. I guess as the closest relationship you've had for the last 20 years, it feels a bit odd that you don't feel relaxed enough at home to be able to be yourself.
I think it's more like, there's the really obvious masking, like I like putting myself in uncomfortable clothes because that's what I'm supposed to wear, or like asking about the weather because that's what I'm supposed to do. And then there's like deeper masking, which is, am I responding to life in the way that my instincts tell me? And that's the bit that's missing. And so I couldn't work on that sooner because it's almost like I didn't know that I was still masking. So for me, masking at home feels like not expressing my joy in the way that I would tend to express it. So I know that if I'm on my own, I will sing and dance a lot more. I will randomly burst into song and dance because I felt happy about something, which I guess is a form of stimming. I will pull strange facial expressions. I will do echolalia. I will do things that feel good that I wouldn't do around you. And then there's also the other aspect of masking that I do at home and just in general that's really, I think really wearing me down is feeling like I need to always be on, feeling like I need to always have a smile and be interested and engaged in everything that everybody says and does, which is hard when you live with 4 other people. And never just like zone out and never, and I think in a way that form of masking is a really unhelpful thing, because it causes me to become irritated and frustrated and not necessarily achieve the goal of always being on, because I'm just like, oh my God, could you just shut up and leave me alone? And I haven't done that soon enough, and I've reached the point of just being like, shut up.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think then also a really interesting aspect of that for me is that you are good and comfortable at saying, I'm tired, I need to zone out, or like putting on your headphones or doing what you need to do to take care of yourself. And I think I used to feel, well, why do you get to do that? I don't get to do that. So, like it almost made me feel a bit resentful.
It's a bit of self-care, isn't it? Especially in the warmer months, I go and sit out in the garden and spend a bit of time on my own. You know that I've always been comfortable doing that. It's just about looking after my own mental health, I think.
Right, and I think as an autistic child, I was given the message that my entire job in life was to make other people feel comfortable. And I never thought about making myself feel comfortable. Okay, so now let's talk about how you feel about the idea of me unmasking as someone who will be seen by the outside world, I guess, as being in a relationship with someone who is more obviously autistic.
Well, I've never really given a monkey's what other people think about me or my relationship with you, so that's not a problem. They can think what they want to think.
Can I just pause you for a second there? What does "I don't give a monkeys" actually mean? Because I'm like, you don't have any monkeys to give. There must be an origin
I'm
for that.
not concerned with how other people see us or see me. They can make up their own judgments in their own mind. I know myself and our relationship.
So if someone were to say to you, oh, why are you with this obviously disabled person? Is it that you like to feel powerful, or that you like the judgments that people might make of someone who chooses to be in a relationship with someone like me?
I'd say they're being very narrow-minded, because your autism, ADHD, all the things are only part of you, and it's all of you that I love and want to be with.
It's not all of who I am. The diagnosis or I guess if you like, the medicalised aspects of autism, which are considered a problem, is not all of who I am. But everything I do, the way I interact in the world, it is all autistic, just the way that a Mac computer is never a Windows computer. It's not just a little bit of it that's a Mac computer, it's entirely a Mac computer. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do, but okay, so then...
And I guess, sorry, just to finish this, because this is useful, when you say it's only a small part of you, it feels like you're saying, oh, but it's only a little bit of you, and minimising who I am.
That's exactly not what I'm trying to say.
I know.
Okay, I think having known you for 10, 12 years prior to the diagnosis, I knew that person, and that's still the same person.
Right.
So what's the difference? So now we've got some labels, but you're still Ella, and nothing's changed for me particularly.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. And I think actually the energy that I have, that maybe I've gotten more successful at masking even since we've been together, in terms of the happy claps and the little songs, is what attracted you to me in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's great. But I think some of the ways that you enjoyed that when we were first together, and bear in mind I was in my early 20s and you were in your early 30s and we knew nothing about autism, so please don't judge Mr. Purple for this, but you would sort of laugh in a, I love this kind of way. But because I'm autistic, and because I've been laughed at a lot of times and mocked a lot of times, I guess I felt, I don't know, I didn't know how to interpret that, and so I shut those behaviours down.
Yeah, I think I was only ever enjoying your exuberance and your joy and your ability to just be happy at lots of things.
I think it's a real...
So I was finding that amusing, and enjoyable.
I think it's a real shame that those parts of me have been shut down, because I think
really?
in some ways there's the intense part of me that is there, the intense, passionate fighter of injustices, saver of worlds. Gosh, did I really just say that? You know what I mean.
I do.
Is there, but in some ways was more balanced by the playfulness that is a natural part of me, And when I'm shutting down the playfulness, I'm just intense, and that's a shame.
Yeah, for both of us.
Yeah. So obviously, it's important that I learn to unmask at home. But it's not just a case, people who've been exploring unmasking, you will know that it's not just a case of flicking a switch and no, right now I'm just going to be myself. So it's like more like, how do we create an environment here where I can do that?
I guess by having this conversation and exploring my understanding, and that's a good start. I think I'd like you to feel that your home is somewhere that you can be you. And I really want you to be able to relax and be yourself, because that's who I want you to be, and be happy.
So one of the things that I do love is dancing, right? Always have done. And you met me as a dancer. I was on a dance course when we met. And there's a difference for me between dancing in terms of as a dancer with choreography and a plan, and then dancing for joy in a more stimmy way, which is something that I do quite often. And I'll be dancing downstairs and I'll just almost have half an eye out for stopping when you come in the room. And I think I was trying to trace that back, and I think that's because I do this like face when I'm doing stimmy dancing that you used to say in a joking, joyful way, oh, well, you used to always comment on that face when I would dance like that, and it made me feel self-conscious. So I think it's partly about not drawing too much attention to it.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
I think that's important. Because I have these memories of being a child and a teenager, and being given the message both by my friends. So I would be with my friends and we'd be walking to school and I would be doing a little Ella thing like I always did, and they would either literally walk ahead so they weren't with me or tell me to stop.
Okay.
So I have so much self-consciousness around it now that even thinking about doing those things just naturally makes me feel scared.
So, not drawing too much attention to it. Just don't be self-conscious about it if you can. It's going to take a while, obviously. But then I would also point to, we have autistic children who we've always been okay with them expressing themselves how they want to, and so you should be able to do that as long as it's not really affecting anybody and you're not bashing saucepan lids together and making everybody deaf. Then it's okay.
Yeah, but here's the thing. At the last week we had some visitors over who are not autistic and not part of the autism scene, and our eldest daughter, myself, and our visitors played a board game, and my eldest daughter was stimming and being her. And she doesn't mask at all, really, does she?
No.
And she makes noises and she makes movements. And you came downstairs and she was doing that, and I could see I could see the discomfort that you wouldn't have if it had just been me and her playing the game, right? And you asked her to stop.
Can I point out that you said it as well?
I felt the same discomfort. We both felt this. Yes, that's absolutely right. I felt this, and I'm learning to combat this. Oh my gosh, we mustn't be weird in front of these people. Instinct that is my own issue, and is I guess it's like our issue, right, that we need to get over, because she wasn't doing anything wrong.
No.
And she wasn't uncomfortable.
No, I know, and those are examples of how we need to look at it and examine. As I was just saying, as long as it's not impacting everybody else in a negative way. Where do we draw the line here? Where is it's okay to do this but not okay to do that? That's what we need to explore now, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that there's anything that I do that would reach that line, to be honest with you. I think that our daughter's stims are completely different to mine and are often quite vocal. Yeah. Which is obviously a bit more intrusive on people's hearing space. And then the other aspect of masking that I think I don't know how to handle is when I'm getting overloaded, when I'm not in a place to have a conversation, when I'm not in a place to hear new information. And I quite often feel really bad about this, because one of the things that's a strength in our relationship is that you aren't an overly loud, intense, chatty person. Quite the opposite. You're quite reserved, you're quite quiet, and that's great for me. So when you do want to have a conversation or share something with me and it's not a good time for me, I feel terrible because it's not as if you're forcing yourself on me all the time.
Nothing is ever that important unless it's like life-threatening or something happening in the house and to the children that you need to... I've learned to recognise that when you put your headphones on, that's when you don't want to be talked to. That you can just say to me, I'm sorry, not now, and I'll stop talking.
Yeah, and I did that yesterday, didn't I? Because I'd had like a near meltdown and Mr. Purple had come to pick me up from the location we were in to prevent me from having a meltdown, and then we got in the car and you started telling me something and I was like, I've just nearly had a meltdown, I actually can't handle it, and you were fine about it and that was fine, but I still felt guilty. So it's not just about you working
I'm not psychic, I can't be in your head and know that that's what you're thinking. You need to tell me.
And that's the thing I need to work on, is telling you calmly in that moment rather than leaving it half an hour, letting it carry on and then having a meltdown and yelling at you, which is arguably worse. I think I feel guilty when I have a need, expressing that need. And so I end up expressing it later down the line in a very demanding, intense way rather than if I just expressed it in the first place. And I'm getting better at that.
Yeah.
But that's working, I guess that's overcoming my own internalised ableism as well, that I should be able to cope, that I should be able to be on the same level as someone who is not autistic in terms of what I can handle.
Well, yeah, well, that's very true.
And like maybe I need some actual, just a couple of sessions of therapy or something, just to talk through that. Why do I feel guilt? How do I overcome that guilt? Because honestly, I do feel guilty so much of the time when I'm asking for my needs to be met, and that just makes me more needy. But the good one we have come up with, which, you know, might be useful to you guys, is that if I really just need to be left alone, I've got some ear headphones that I almost bought specifically because they were more obvious than my earbuds, right?
Absolutely.
That everyone in the house can be like, oh, they are taking some time for themselves now.
Yeah, and it works in the outside world as well. If you're out on a dog walk and you've got them on, people are much less likely to talk to you.
I think it's a long process, unmasking, especially if you've been diagnosed really late in your life and you've already established some really foundation relationships like your partner, like your children, and it isn't something that can happen overnight. It isn't the flicking of a switch. But I'm lucky in that I have a really supportive and loving partner who does want to accept me. So it's a little bit of work on your part and maybe a lot of work on my part as well, in a way of like feeling, it's almost like physical intimacy, this, because it's almost more intimate for me to not fake all this stuff.
In terms of a romantic or intimate relationship, I think the more that you are yourself, the better that is going to be, rather than you pretending to be something that you're not. And I'd much rather you were that. Cool.
Okay, well, thank you. I love you. So yeah, thanks for being here and watching our incredibly private conversation. It's completely normal. But I hope that it was helpful. This is why I've done it here, because I feel like I'm not the only one, and maybe this will be helpful if it was helpful. Or if you have any suggestions or tips for how we could start to work on this, do leave me a comment in the comment box below. Thank you so much, as always, to Mr. Purple, who is not a natural sit in front of a camera and talk, but I do feel like you're getting more comfortable, for offering us his time and his insights. He has agreed to do a video every few months, every 3 months, 2 or 3 months. So if there's a topic that you're really wanting us to explore as a couple, as parents and as a disabled and abled couple, then also leave that as a comment, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Oh yeah, that too. Thanks for watching. Bye.